What's going on, guys? This is Bunny Muffins. I have the patch 12.15 meta snapshot, and this patch is a little weird. The reason is because of a lot of the buffs and nerfs that happened earlier this week. If you guys want to check that out, I have the patch preview over here. I'll try to leave a card in the top right corner. But I actually think that a lot of the units are actually pretty balanced this patch in terms of relative to other units of their cost. So starting in the S tier, we have Shin and Mirage Daeja. The first one's kind of like a fast 9 comp. Shin, I think, is the best 1-star 10 cost dragon, but the other ones are better at 2-star, I'm pretty sure. Mirage Daeja is pretty solid. Daeja is an 8 cost unit, and he's probably the strongest one at the 4 and 8 cost range. And then after that, we have Cannoneer Corki. He works well because he's really flexible. Jade, Ragewing Shyvana, and Astral Aurelion Soul. This week, the S and A tier are actually very similar. In the B tier, we have Varus, Whispers, Olaf, Bruisers, Xayah, Legend Volibear, Yone, and Swain. And then in the C tier, I don't really recommend these. These are mainly a lot of the reroll comps. But if you guys want to check them out, these are all on my website at bunnymuffins.lol. And we are going to go into how to play every single one of these compositions and also like when to play them, what the leveling patterns are. But before that, a quick word from our sponsor. Do you like shooters but have trouble finding a good game to play on your phone? Look no further than Mech Arena. It's tactical, it's team-based, and it's a 5v5 shooter that works for both competitive and casual players alike. There are a ton of awesome mechs to explore, all with unique abilities and different playstyles. For example, this guy's good for long range, this guy's good for close range. There are also a huge variety of weapons to unlock and upgrade to customize your mechs personally. If you like a certain look, there are hundreds of amazing skins, custom paint jobs, and unlimited weapon combinations. Build your mech to fit your personality and your playstyle. If you like playing solo, you could queue up solo. If you like 2v2s, there's a 2v2 mode. If you have a whole squad together, you could go ahead and play in the competitive 5v5s. Lucky for you guys, this month is huge for Mech Arena. First up, it's Battle Pass Season 9 with a ton of rewards and skins to grab. And at the same time, it's Mech Arena's 1-year anniversary. They packed it full of schedules of special events and some crazy prizes to win, including an awesome new sniper weapon and a new pilot, the Archangel. If that hasn't convinced you enough to download this, it's completely free to play on Android and iOS right now, and you can use my personal link or scan the QR code in the top right corner to get a free starter pack worth $25. This includes a Firelight skin, a Prodigy crate, and a Plasma Cannon 4 to help kickstart your game. If you're quick enough, you can add me to friends to know when I'm online and what types of units I'm playing. Thanks again to Mech Arena for sponsoring this video. So starting at the top, we have the Shin comp. This is typically one of those like fast 9 compositions, but you could roll for Shin at level 8. Sometimes you're just playing the game, you're just trying to hit the random legendary unit and then pivot your comp into that after you hit the dragon. And this is the case for a lot of comps this patch. So remember how in the beginning I was saying how the units are pretty balanced within their own tier? Well, so what you want to do is if you're going for like a top 4, you focus more on the 4 and 8 costs. If you're going for first place, you focus more on the 5 and 10 cost units. It's going to change every game, so you do have to keep that in mind when you play. But this comp is really good. You just need like a bunch of HP for it in order to reach the dragon. And then after that, you want to focus primarily on your Shin items and arming your front line. Your front line is generally Ornn and Sylas, but it could be different tanks as well. Sylas is going to be your main tank, so put all the Gargoyle stone plates on him, put like the Warmogs on him, like the typical tank items on your Sylas, because he's going to be easier to 2-star, and also he gets like a nice shield when you have 3 mages in. In the late game, Zoe's great with items, and then Heimerdinger just great for stunning people, Lulu great for CC, and Bard. Just like one of the best legendary units in the game, in my opinion. I think he may actually be the best by far this whole set so far. Next up, we have Mirage or Mirage and Guild Daeja. A lot of people like adding in Cavaliers, so if you get Cavalier Spatula, really strong in this build. In this one, we have 4 Mirage, 3 Cavalier, and then we have a couple of Guild units. We have Bard and Talon here. You could replace Bard and Talon and Pike with more Mirage units, so you could run Yasuo, you could run Yone, and then you could run an extra Cavalier. Some people are doing 6 Mirage, 4 Cavalier. That one's pretty good too. And then in the bottom, we have a different build that's similar to the one we talked about, but it's like 6 Mirage, 2 Cavalier, plus Lulu Bard. But again, you could replace Lulu and Bard to get to 4 Cavalier if you want more frontline. The main carry is going to be Daeja, and I have a couple of different item sets out right now. So first one is kind of like the nuke build. This is with Jeweled Gauntlet, Infinity Edge, and then a healing item with Hand of Justice. This could also be Hextech Gunblade. And then down here, we have more of like the steady DPS build. We have the Gunblade, Quicksilver, Rageblade. You could also do Archangels. Archangels and Rageblade kind of do the same thing. They're both really good. I don't focus too much on getting Daeja items. So a lot of people are like, oh, do I need perfect items for my carry? My answer is no. What I like to do instead is you look at the items down here. So I have like Nunu items written out, and then like I gave a lot of options for Daeja. Nunu has a lot of options too. but pretty much any tank item is going to do fine. But Daeja, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like more than 5 items here. Whatever you see here and you're able to build it, just build it right away, just so you get more value out of it. That's going to be more important than getting perfect items on Daeja. Obviously, you want to mix and match items. So if you have a Hand of Justice already, you don't need a Hextech Gunblade in addition to the Hand of Justice. You don't want like 2 healing items. You generally want like 1 scaling item, such as Archangels or Rageblade. Scaling as in it gets stronger as the fight goes on. You want 1 healing item, so either Hand of Justice, Hextech Gunblade, or Bloodthirster, and then 1 damage item. So that could be like Giant Slayer, that could be Static Shiv, that could be Titan's Resolve. It could also be another one of the stacking items, or you could go like something more of a supportish thing, such as Quicksilver. Quicksilver is really good if you go for the attack speed build, just because he's allowed to stack up the Rageblade that much easier. So lots of different options there for the itemization. You just really want to focus more on slamming items early instead of going for perfect items. I think that's like the key for this build. And then I wrote out some like small adjustments you could do based on the Mirage variant you're going for. I think Dawnbringer's the best one though, so just keep that in mind. Also, the leveling pattern is standard leveling. Most 4 and 8 cost carry comps, they're going to be doing standard leveling, so just keep that in mind. But the special one about this is you don't really need to go level 9. I like going for Nunu 3-star at level 8. And since you have Bard, you generally get good chances for both Nunu and the Yasuo if you hit the Bard early. On to the next build, we have the A tier in Corki Cannoneer. Corki's great because he is probably the most flexible 4-cost unit. He works with Sy'phen, he works with Idis, he works with Xiaoyu, he works with Shyvana, he works with every dragon tank. So if the dragon can fit in the front line, you could play it with Corki. So just focus on getting Corki and Sona buffed up, add in a Tristana Lulu for trainer. Bard's just great because he's Bard. And then after that, your front line, just any 2-star dragon and you're going to be golden. That's why this comp is so good. Even though Corki doesn't like destroy everything, he did get slightly nerfed. You don't need to destroy everything because you're able to play him in so many more games than all the other carries. So Corki's kind of like, I wouldn't say he's a flex guy, but he's like more flex than the other units right now. Right now, you are going to do the standard leveling, of course, because you are going for 4-cost carry. So that's like the leveling pattern with him. Onto the next build, we have Jade. Jade's really good because Xiaoyu is just both one of the better tanks and DPS units all in one unit. And then Neeko is just great AoE CC. So Neeko is going to be your primary tank. Xiaoyu is going to be both the off tank and the damage dealer. And then if you have extra items, you could throw them on Anivia, you could throw them on like mana regeneration on Bard or like support items on your other units. All of those are going to do well. But I think most important items is getting at least 2 tank items on Neeko and then 3 items on Xiaoyu. I know that ordering sounds a little weird. Normally you want to focus the guy with 3 items first because you do want 3 items on Xiaoyu. But I think if you had to choose for perfect items, Neeko or Xiaoyu, you'd rather have 2 perfect Neeko items. Just because she's like your primary tank and the longer she lives, she gets like another cast off. If she doesn't have good items, she'll only get like 1 or 2 casts off, but if she has like really good ones, she'll get 3 or more, or like just live throughout the whole game. So that's like the difference between Neeko. A lot of times she like has full mana, but then doesn't cast because she's not tanky enough because she just dies right at that time. Standard leveling again for this because you're going for the 4-cost and 8-cost carry, so that's pretty simple there. Most of the comps so far, they're just standard leveling, I think apart from the first one. So next up, we have Shyvana Ragewing. So Ragewings are in a very weird spot. Without Shyvana, they're very mediocre. Like Swain Reroll 3-star, not that great. Xayah carry, it's like, it's doable. I'm not saying it's not doable, but it's really not that great. Shapeshifters, like no one's playing Nidalee Reroll anymore. So you really are just playing for 4th place until you get Shyvana. If you do get Shyvana, you could play for 1st, but until that happens, it's a little awkward. So Shyvana items are a little weird as well. So you could go like either the supportish route or the full damage route. So the supportish route would be something like Frozen Heart, Ionic Spark, Morella Namicon. Those are really good items on her. And then the full damage route is going stuff like Archangel Staff, Rabadon's Death Cap, Jeweled Gauntlet, and like maybe a healing item, Hand of Justice, or Titan's Resolve for pseudo tank and damage. Both combinations work. I'd say you'd want to synergize with each other. So if you're going the supportish items, you want to complement it with more of like the tank items or the sustain items. But if you're doing more for the damage, I'd like to go full damage. They changed Shyvana's AI so that she targets better units in this patch. So do keep that in mind. I think stuff like Morellonomicon might be slightly better because of that targeting, because she's never going to hit like no units like she did on last patch. But they did nerf her mana, but oh yeah, we have all the item combinations down here if you want. But to play this build, you just do standard leveling, and then in the games that you can go level 9, you go for it. That's if you have high health, you already hit most 2 stars except for Shyvana maybe. Or maybe you had like an econ augment early on that you could use to really get you to level 9 really quickly. Or if you're in a game where you're like high rolling and therefore you have more health. Onto the next build, we have Astral. Astral did get nerfed quite a bit, so it's not quite as OP as it was in the last patch, but it's still very, very playable. Aurelion Soul is definitely going to be the carry still. Mage Cap, obviously really good, but not 100% necessary. Sylas is going to be your main tank. I like doing Ionic Spark because it just allows your A-Soul to kill people faster because it reduces magic resist, and then just full-on tank items, Warmogs, Gargoyle, Stoneplate on Sylas is going to be good. You could also itemize your Alawi with tank items. And then this comp also likes the support items, so if you have Chalice of Power or Zeke's Herald, you could drop that onto Lulu and then have her support your Aurelion Soul just so Aurelion Soul can do more damage. Next build up, we have Varus Bruiser. Varus, I actually think is decent. A lot of people underrate Varus, I'm pretty sure. But he has like 2 different builds he could go for. The one that I find the easiest to play is the 4 Swiftshot, 4 Bruiser version. This one is great because you could go for Skarner 3, Alawi 3, Varus 3. And no one really touches Skarner, so he's really easy to 3-star. He's not the best unit in the game, obviously, but he's just easy to hit, so that's why you use him. And then you complement him with 4 Swift Shots, so he does a lot of damage. And I know Deathblade got nerfed, but I still think it's one of the best items on Varus, especially if you're running Runon. So if you have Runons, like pretty much always run Deathblade, because you just get a lot of value from it. And when you have Swiftshot, you have so much attack speed that you want as much attack damage as possible because it like multiplies the damage rather than like adds it up. And to play this comp, you want to reroll at level 7 for Varus 3-star. You could also do it on level 6 if you're running 6 Astral, but generally I like the 3 Astral version more because the 6 Astral is like highly contested. Onto the next build, we have the Whisper build. This is with Elise and Sy'phen. And the great thing about this composition is that both Elise and Sy'phen, they pretty much use the same items. It's both Bloodthirster plus Quicksilver and then like a random 3rd item. And there are a ton of variations for this build. We have the 6 Whisper version out on this picture right here with 4 Bruiser, but you could literally just have a core of 4 Whisper, just Sy'phen and Elise, and pretty much add in anything else that you want. Elise is good because she can be like a decent secondary carry if she's 2-star, or be the primary carry if she's 3-star. So what you would do for this comp is reroll at level 7 for Elise 3, and since a lot of people are not playing this comp, you generally do hit the Elise 3 in a lot of your games, especially if you have Astral players in your lobby. Everyone's going to be taking the Alawis, and then there might be like a random reroll Varus player, and then maybe someone's going for like Sylas 3. And then that leaves Elise really open, so you could get her pretty easily. Maybe someone else is re-rolling Olaf and Diana. And other players doing that just helps you a ton because they take champions out of the pool. With that in mind, the great augments for this comp is all the stuff that helps like the reroll build. So Triforce is really good. Titanic Strength is good because it buffs all the bruisers. And then things like Wise Spending, really good because you're just getting free level ups and free rolls as you like reroll your build. And keep in mind, I list out the augments you should pick on every comp. So again, if you guys need references during the game, head on to my website, bunnymuffins.lol, for info on that. Onto the next build, we have Olaf Reroll. Only play this build if you get Assassin Spatula on Olaf. It's like the only reason to play this. If you don't have it, it's just Olaf gets stuck on a tank and then you can never kill anything. You need the Assassin Spatula. Like, just don't even think about playing it without it. I like the 4 Scale Scorn plus anything else version. So you just run Olaf, Diana, Lilia, and Braum, and then whatever else you're hitting, you just play. So sometimes that's going to be Bruisers, sometimes that's going to be more Assassins, but you really don't need to focus on them. Just focus on your Olaf and Diana, and you should be good to go from there. And then you reroll for Olaf and Diana 3-star at level 7, because that's just like the best odds for 3-cost units. Onto the next build, we have Bruiser, Mage, Sy'phen. This is like more of a Sy'phen carry build with Mage support. What's good about this build is that everyone in the backline, they don't need items. Like, a Morellonomicon is good on Sona, but it's not mandatory at all. So you really just need to focus on Sy'phen items. Even your Sylas items don't matter that much. Of course, like, you'd rather have real tank items than like fake ones, but it's not the end of the world if you don't get them. And then you look at all the units in the back, they all provide CC. Heimerdinger provides CC, Zoe provides CC, and like invulnerabilities, Lulu CCs, Bard CC, Sona CC. So you just have a ton of CC that buys time for your Sy'phen to just eventually eat everything up. So you want stacking items like Titan Resolve, Bloodthirster for sustaining. And then I like the Quicksilver, but in this build, you don't need the Quicksilver as badly as you do in the Elise build. This build, I'd say you like Quicksilver is pretty mandatory, but in the other one, or in this one, because other people get CC'd, they don't CC your Sy'phen as much. So if you have a damage item as your third item, he'll just be popping people harder. So it's like, ends up being the same thing. Next build up, we have the Xayah Ragewing or Guild Xayah. Again, Xayah focus comps are just not that strong right now. Xayah's only good because you add in Shyvana in the late game. And is that really a Xayah comp if she's not the primary carry? I'm not really too sure. Leave your thoughts on that in the comments below. I generally think if like she's not the main reason why you're doing well in a game, like I don't consider her the primary carry. That's why I separated out the Shyvana comp compared to the Xayah Ragewing comp, even though they look very similar. Standard leveling for this one because you're going for a 4-cost unit, and then item holders, obviously the Swiftshot units are the best, Ezreal and Twitch, but it could be really any range damage dealer in the early game. You don't have to use Ezreal or Twitch because you could pivot into this comp without like a Swiftshot start. Next build up, we have Volibear, Dragonmancer, or Cavalier. Volibear is really popular in China, but that's about it. Like I don't see it that much in the West, and like data-wise, it's pretty garbage in the West. Garbage as in like below average. The build I like the most is a Cavalier one, but I also see the Dragonmancer one do pretty well. Dragonmancer one I'd say is like slightly more popular right now than the Cavaliers. Cavaliers I think they got nerfed a little bit, so that's why. And I'm not 100% sure, but I think the reason why this comp isn't as popular is because there are a lot of bugs with Volibear. There's like a lot of weird things that happen with the legend trait because things get combined. So like sometimes like the stats don't transfer, sometimes they do it in weird ways. It's hard to describe because it's just like way too many bugs that happen with this build. Maybe that's the reason why it's not played as much, because they did nerf Volibear a couple of patches ago. But I don't think anyone outside of China has really found like the way to make Volibear work, or clearly it hasn't caught on yet because I don't see that many top players playing Volibear that often. Onto the next build, we have Yone Reroll Guardians. Yone is pretty interesting. He's like the only 2-cost reroll that we've ever seen in this set so far. Like we haven't seen Kayn reroll, which I'm surprised about because I thought Kayn would be for sure a thing. Most of the other 2-cost units are like support units. The only other carry at 2 costs I could think of is Tristana, but all her builds turned out not to be so good. I guess reroll Nami's a thing, but that's more from Astrals, not so much like regular traditional reroll. But this build works pretty well because a lot of the units you see on the board are all low cost, so you could end up getting like Leona 3, Taric 3, Braum 3, Thresh 3 pretty easily. They're not mandatory, you really only care about Yone 3 and maybe Leona, but you could always switch out the tanks if you don't hit them 3-star. That's the beauty of this. So it's like, yeah, you want Yone 3, and Leona 3 is great, right? But if you don't get Leona 3, you could replace her with other tanks because the tanks don't really need to be specific units. You're mainly going for Mirages, so obviously, yeah, it'd be great if you could use Leona, but it could be like Nunu instead, but you could run like a Nunu 2-star instead and run Cavaliers if you really don't hit them. If you do end up going for the Cavalier build, your build's going to look something like the Mirage builds we saw at the beginning, except you just run a Yone carry instead of running Daeja carry. Onto the last build, we have the Swain Dragonmancer build. Again, you're mainly playing this because you could add in a Shyvana later. So you'd play like 6 Dragonmancer or 6 Ragewing, and then once you hit your late game, you add in a Shyvana. It's mainly good because Shyvana's good, not because Swain's good. You just use him as like a temporary carry. But there are some random offshoot games where you get a lot of Swains and you can reroll for Swain 3. And I feel like he's like a decent option. I know they buffed Lee Sin a bunch, but I just haven't seen Lee Sin do that well. So I don't recommend playing the Lee Sin reroll if you're a Dragonmancer guy. I recommend sticking to Swain and Volibear. That's going to be it for the B tiers. The C tiers, I mean, you could play them. Sett got nerfed a bunch. I still see some people playing it, but I think it's more the people who just like didn't realize the patch happened, and that's why they're playing Sett still, or they're just like testing it out and then like seeing if it works. I think that's the only people playing Sett reroll. Again, you'd only play Sett because it gets you to Shyvana, but now Sett got nerfed, so it's harder to get to Shyvana or wait till Shyvana, so that's why it's not being played as much. Talon, I guess Talon did get buffed, but I haven't seen like a Talon focused build quite yet. Mages, just play the ASOL version. And Nidalee, nope. Ezreal, nope. And yeah, Guild Ryze, nope. Lee Sin, we just talked about, like, not as good as the other Dragonmancer, so I wouldn't play him quite yet. But yeah, that's gonna be it for it today, because like the C tiers, I don't really recommend playing that much. So just to sum up, guys, like the S and A tier are very close. Like, if I put all of them in the A tier or all of them in the S tier, like it'd be the same thing. I don't think this is one of those patches where you like only go for S tier. My strategy for this patch, I think, would be to play like flex until stage 4, and then once you get to stage 4, see what like legendaries you randomly hit, and then try to pivot into those. So slam items early, try to slam like the flexible items, or like focus mainly on tank items, because every comp uses the same tank items. It's like Warmogs, Gargoyle, Stone Plate. Some teams use like Sunfire Cape, things of that nature. And then once you see your carry, then like turbo focus onto the carry items. And I feel like that is going to be the better way to play this patch. But let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Let me know if there are other comps that you think should be on this list, maybe some things that could be adjusted. And also, I am looking for game replays. So if you guys want to get your games reviewed by me, I'm doing like a unranked to diamond game review. So if you are in iron, bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or diamond, go ahead and send me your replays. Upload them to YouTube first so I can like watch them and download them. But I hope to do like a series of like reviewing 6 people's games and just seeing where that goes. So again, if you want to get into that, DM me on like Discord, and yeah, just let me know what rank you are and one of the games you had. And don't send me like the games where you got like first place really easily, because we can't really learn that much from those games. Send me the games where you're like wondering like, oh, what should I have done here, and how do I improve in like special situations, for example. I think those games will be more interesting to review. But thanks so much for watching. Again, DM for the replays. All my socials are in the description below, and also down in the description, don't forget to check out the links for today's sponsor, Mech Arena. But apart from that, I will see you all later. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to share and subscribe, and of course smash that like button. Each like is an LP I gain before the next video.